welcome to episode 16 of season 2, In the Shadow of Zahadum. This episode is turning into a royal pain in the butt to review. There are literally so many things that are happening in this episode. It's kind of like I start to describe one of them successfully without stepping on any of the others. And then all of a sudden I find out I tripped on one of the other ones and I just completely gave away something. Yeah, this episode's really kind of tricky. The crux of the episode is pretty simple. It's basically a episode where character X decides to do what we all expect him to do. And so there's not really actually anything interesting happening at a glance. However, we get to learn about Mr. Morden a lot, and I've not mentioned Mr. Morden a lot because there's not a lot to mention about Mr. Morden until this episode. He's been in the show, and calling him a side character is a bit of a stretch. Calling him a recurring character is fair enough. He does not get much screen time, though, so calling him a recurring character is kind of I don't know, it feels a bit of a stretch to me. He's really almost a side character, which is why I've never mentioned him until now. Don't get me wrong, he's actually pretty important to the stories, especially if you've been watching it all up until this point. But I mean, he's not an unimportant character. He just doesn't have that much screen time, so there's not honestly a lot to say about him until this episode. This episode, everything changes. And for the better. Basically, the commander recognizes Morden and tries to take action that would go badly. And we find out why in this episode. And in that way, this episode finally starts explaining some of the stuff we suspect, we are aware of. For example, we learn a big chunk of what it's kind of obvious if you've seen all the episodes up until now about the Vorlons. And while I could spoil that further, I think that does summarize everything nicely enough. There's a lot of stuff happening, not just about the Vorlons. There's also a lot of stuff happening about the humans in this episode. And if you don't see this episode from the human side's arc, you will regret it because there are things that are really important, and I think that's good enough. I'm going to stop talking. It's 3 minutes, and I didn't blow any piece of the story apart. Woo! I made it. Okay, you guys have a good one.